Here are 6 sleepers that are going to help you win your fantasy championships in the second half of the season. Next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're taking a look at 6 players who got off to rough starts to the seasons, but are going to help you win your fantasy football championship. And I want to start at wide receiver with Marvin Harrison Jr. because, listen, I have him in almost every single league. The first half of the season was rough, but with Jacoby Brissett under center for the rest of the year, is he poised for a massive breakout?
Yeah, and that's the big thing too. Isn't it funny, Marcus, how a lot of cases around the league, we talk about wide receivers and tight ends being better when the backup quarterback is the starter. I mean, right? So, and I think maybe that's the case with the Cardinals and Jacoby Brissett and Kyler Murray. And I don't know about you, there's something fishy going on because there's video of Kyler Murray looking like he's ready to start as early as last week. And all of a sudden now, he's out for a good portion of the remainder of the season and has lost his starting job. Something's just weird there, but Harrison Jr., a massive game last week, but that was against the Cowboys. Okay, I put Marcus Mosher in an opposing jersey. Probably you're looking at about 18 fantasy points.
I don't know. I'm
they're bad.
Pretty sick right now.
I mean, they're bad. But with Brissett under center, and you've got some good matchups coming up. You got the Jaguars, you got the Bucks. The Rams haven't been great against perimeter receivers. The Bengals defense stinks. That's a good thing for Harrison Jr., but there's also some games where you could find the Cardinals in negative game scripts. Maybe as soon as this week against Seattle. You could see him in a negative game script against the Niners or the Bucks or the Rams. And so that's good for Marvin Harrison. I don't think this is a team that's going to the playoffs, even though they look pretty good against the Cowboys. I think they're still an average team in the NFL. And, you had Marvin Harrison Sr. come out and kind of talk some, crap about the Cardinals. And I just think that this is a good time to potentially trade for Marvin Harrison Jr. And if you have him, I think you're going to get more consistent production. I mean, it's not going to be 22 points every week like he played the Cowboys, but I think you'll get more consistent production from Harrison Jr. Obviously, Trey McBride's going to be the lead dude there in Arizona, but I like where things are going for Marvin Harrison Jr. with the quarterback change.
It reminds me a little bit of when the Browns had Jacoby Brissett and he was throwing the ball to Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper was putting up big time numbers, right? Remember that those couple seasons in Cleveland before Amari disappeared and never saw him again. I wouldn't be surprised if Marvin Harrison Jr. does have a little bit of a bounce back because Brissett is not going to run. Like, he is a pocket passing quarterback. And while I don't think he necessarily adds value to Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's just going to pepper him with targets, and he's got no problem, Fab, standing in the pocket and just throwing the ball to the sideline over and over again. I don't know if Marvin Harrison Jr. becomes a wide receiver 1, but I think he's somebody that you're going to feel comfortable putting in your lineup every single week. And that was not the case in the first 8 games of the season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was kind of, feast or famine with Kyler Murray under center as it pertained to Marvin Harrison Jr. in terms of the targets and certainly the fantasy points. And I think, again, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he's not going to be an elite fantasy wide receiver, but he's going to be a much more dependable wide receiver 2 type for the rest of the season. And, you mentioned Amari Cooper and Brissett. How about Jameson Winston and Jerry Jeudy? I mean,
perfect.
Sometimes a quarterback and a wide receiver just mesh. And Jacoby Brissett, I feel like, is if he isn't there yet, he's getting there with making sure Marvin Harrison Jr. gets enough targets to make plays. And of course, that's why the Cardinals drafted him in the first round a couple of years ago.
Let's talk about another receiver that could potentially have a second half resurgence. And I'm going to go with Xavier Worthy. Now, maybe I'm doubling down on a player that I shouldn't be doubling down on, but Worthy got hurt. Was it the third play in week 1 against the Chargers? And he missed a couple of games. He's been battling with this torn labrum, but the Chiefs are off this week. They're in a bye, which I got to believe that he desperately needs. Worthy has been basically somebody over the last month that has been unplayable. Do you think there's a chance now that maybe he's getting a little bit healthier, we're getting further into the season, that he does become a bigger weapon in this offense?
I don't know about a bigger weapon. Rashee Rice is just so good. And, he is the alpha. He is the one there. You also have Travis Kelce in the mix too. You got some other wide receivers behind, the top 2 players. I was down on Xavier Worthy when Rice came back. I've had him as a sit-em every week since basically Rice has come back over at Sports Illustrated. And, while the bye week and the time off will certainly do him good from a health perspective, I still don't think we're going to get the Xavier Worthy we saw in the second half of last year, who is basically in your lineup every single week, or at least for the most part. I just think he's a matchup-based guy moving forward for the rest of the season, as long as Rice is healthy.
Do you know how many games he has over 54 receiving yards this year? Want to guess?
My guess is that it's not many.
One
Yeah.
against the Ravens. And I mean, this is somebody last year, Fabs, who was averaging like 70 total yards per game. He scored 9 touchdowns. It could have been way more if Patrick Mahomes was
Right.
more
I mean, but
accurate.
remember, no Rashee Rice, no Hollywood Brown. It was his show.
Yes.
Now he's got to share the workload, and maybe he's the third best option in the passing game right now, whereas last year he was 1 or 2.
I don't think you're wrong. I've got this hunch that coming out of the bye week, and they play some really bad defenses coming up, including our Dallas Cowboys. That's like the get right game for everybody.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be surprised if we see a much healthier and more dynamic version of Xavier Worthy in the second half of the year, because if you drafted him in, where was he going? Round 4 in redraft in dynasty leagues, who's being valued as a top 20 receiver, you've got nothing out of him. He's been a bench player every single game. I just won't be surprised if he starts to turn it on a little bit.
I hope so. I have some shares of him. And to be quite honest with you, if things don't turn around and, against the Cowboys, you're starting, again, Marcus Mosher. But I just think he's a matchup-based guy right now. And I don't know that that's going to change.
All right, let's talk about some AFC North running backs that we think are poised for huge second half of the seasons of the year. We'll get to Jaylen Warren and another running back that Fabs loves next. This episode is brought to you by Mizzen and Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is that most dress clothes only fit one of those boxes. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, hot, and they are high maintenance. But that is why there's Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They've actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've perfected it ever since. Their shirts are so comfortable. It's the feel of athletic wear, but it's the look of professional menswear. And right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off their first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That is Mizzen spelled Mizzen and Main MAIN.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both. There's never been a better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere that Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I love how fast you can create the lineups. You can do it in less than 60 seconds. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're discussing some players that had shaky starts to the year that are going to help you win your fantasy championship in the second half. And let's go to the AFC North. Let's talk about some running backs. We'll start with Quinshon Judkins because I know you love him so much. Why do you think he's supposed to be even better in the second half of the year?
First off, can you get it right, please, Marcus? Quinshon Super Judkins. Let's go. The shoulder injury seems to be a non-issue. He's back in practice, which is a good thing. And he has the second easiest strength of schedule among running backs. He's got the Raiders, the Ravens, the Titans, the Bears, and the Bills. Oh, my. Now, are negative game scripts possible in these games? Yeah, absolutely. I get it. But I'm looking at the defensive numbers, and Judkins has got, again, a very, very favorable schedule. And so with him being back, he's got, the Jets this week, and the Jets no longer have that big beef in the middle of that defensive line. So that's a good matchup as well for Judkins. So he's a player that, he's kind of broken out. He's not he hasn't become an elite fantasy running back, which I think at some point in his career he could do that. But he is certainly a player that's going to be in everybody's lineup every single week moving forward, especially against these defenses that have given it up to running backs. And it's going to start this week against the Jets, whose defense looks a hell of a lot different than it did just a few days ago, and not for good. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I saw a number yesterday that the Jets were allowing 5.3 yards per carry when Quinshon Williams was off the field. I can't imagine that's going to get better now that he's on our Dallas Cowboys, right? They've completely gutted this team. Their best defensive back, Sauce Gardner, is gone. Quincy Williams, their all-pro linebacker, he's been benched. I think the Jets are going to be a team kind of like the Bengals and Cowboys, where you're just playing all of your guys anytime you see that matchup on the schedule.
Yep. Can you say tank? Listen, and the Jets mess up every single draft pick that they have ever made, basically, at quarterback. But they're looking to get a quarterback in the draft next year. And so I would not be surprised if the Jets maybe won one more game the rest of the season, and that's about it. They are in full tank mode.
Well, this is why they're getting all these picks, right? So they can't, if they mess up half of them, messing up half of 6 is not too bad, right? Still a good hit, right? What about Jaylen Warren? Because we thought that the Steelers were going to make a trade at the deadline, maybe going out to get someone like Rashid Shaheed. They were mentioned to get Jacoby Myers. I know a lot of Steeler fans are hoping like Chris Olave or Jalen Waddle would be coming to the Berg, but instead they stand pat. Does that mean we can see even more touches for Jaylen Warren?
Yeah, and listen, Warren has not been putting up like these gigantic numbers, but he's super steady. He's got a good floor. He scored double digits in all but 2 of his first 7 games. And as Judkins has the second most favorable schedule among running backs, guess who's got the most favorable? Jaylen Warren. You've got the Bengals, the Bears, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Dolphins. All really good matchups for Jaylen Warren. And Pittsburgh's not going to get blown out of many games.
No.
Right? So, they're always going to be in games. Even this week, Warren's got the Chargers. The Chargers defense is not great against running backs. They haven't been lately in the last few weeks. So Warren is a really good option who could help you. And again, it's not like he's going to be putting up Bijan type of numbers, but when you've got that solid RB2 flex who's giving you, a 14-point floor every single week, that's big. And so even if I'm in a dynasty league or a redraft league and I'm looking to maybe make a trade, that's a guy that I can go and get, and he's not going to cost me a lot. I'm not going out. He's not the sexiest name in the world, but everything looks really good for Jaylen Warren moving forward. And again, he's been quietly solid with a nice floor so far this season. I don't think that's going to change, and the matchups are really good.
No, and he missed a game. I think it was the London game against Minnesota where he got hurt.
Yeah, that's where Gainwell went bananas and scored 31 points. Yeah.
So here's my prediction with Warren. I think of all the names that we're going to mention, he's my favorite trade target because I think he's going to be one of the most affordable. And the other thing is I've watched Aaron Rodgers when we get late into the season, and really when it starts to get cold out, he just does not want to get hit. He's already getting rid of the ball faster than he's ever done before. And I think that's going to only continue to get worse, right? And what that means is just more of these dump off targets to Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell. Pittsburgh's offensive line is playing pretty well. They're using a lot of 2 tight end sets, including Darnell Washington, who's basically a 6 offensive lineman. I just think Warren, between his PPR upside and the amount of touches that he's going to get in this offense, is a really good buy right now.
Yeah, and if we've learned anything from the last few weeks, I mean, Kenneth Gainwell is not going to take enough touches every week to hurt Jaylen Warren. Like, he's that guy. You know, this certainly is reminiscent to me of, like, you remember when we talked about in the preseason, it was all about Caleb Johnson, and Caleb Johnson, he's going to be this, he's going to be that. And then ultimately it wasn't Caleb Johnson. And we learned that he's got big hurdles to jump to even be a factor in the Steelers offense. And now, you know, you're looking at a situation. It's kind of like, you know, Trevion Henderson, right? Trevion Henderson, oh my God, he's a rookie. We love him. He couldn't hurdle Ramondre Stevenson, and he still can't. So, you know, that's kind of what it reminds me of these guys. And Warren was a good bargaining drafts because people were, Caleb Johnson, you know, this is going to be their guy. We as fantasy analysts, a lot of time, like I'm guilty of this sometimes do, is like we automatically get drawn to the youth. Like, we like the youth gone wild. Skid Row. Great song, by the way, from the 80s. I had to throw that in there. But it doesn't always happen. Sometimes the veterans keep those jobs, and Jaylen Warren kept that job. And he's run with it literally and figuratively. And I think he's going to help you win a championship this season.
And from a dynasty perspective, like, I have no problem at all buying Jaylen Warren, not just for this year, but for future years, because Pittsburgh locked him up right before the season after they saw all training camp of Caleb Johnson. And I think they said, oh man, Warren's their better player. He's the better pass blocker. He's the better receiver. He's one of the best guys in the league after contact. And it sounds like the Steelers want to bring back Aaron Rodgers. And this is just a guy that Aaron Rodgers trusts, where Caleb Johnson gets like 1 touch a game after basically doing nothing the first half of the year. I'm buying Jaylen Warren because I think this guy's in for a heck of a second half of the year.
Agreed. And boy, I can't wait for that game against the Chargers. That is going to be a glorious uniform matchup. Oh,
I just wish it was a better
blues
game.
Against the whites, I love it with the yellow pants. I get into that kind of thing.
I'm more bummed that the Chargers have like no offensive tackles left, that you and I might be suiting up there.
Yeah, I know, Joel. That stinks, man. That's awful. That is a big time bummer for the Lightning Bolts. But that's going to be a very fantasy friendly game this weekend. We'll talk about that and start them and sit them on Friday.
There you go. That's a tease. All right, let's talk about some post-hype sleepers, some guys that came into the 2025 season with a lot of hype, who disappointed in the first 8-9 games, that we think could potentially turn it around. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's all incredibly frustrating, but that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price that you see is the price that you pay. The app has made it super simple. You can see the exact view from your seats in the app before buying. And honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that you've previously purchased tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Podcast. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's talk about Jameson Williams, because this was somebody who was being drafted as a top 25 dynasty receiver going into the month of September. In a lot of your drafts, you probably spent a 4th round pick on him in redrafts, maybe a 5th round pick. What do you think about him in the second half of the year?
I feel like we're going to see a bit of a resurgence. Couple of reasons. First off, it's already started to happen a little bit. Like he had that 0 a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, oh my God. Yeah. But in between, he had 16 plus in 2 of the last 3, right? Which is much better than he had in the first, 5-6 weeks. And look at the schedule. Okay. Commanders. I mean, they stink. Their defense is not any good. The Giants, again, stink. They're bad against perimeter receivers. The Packers, go look at the numbers. They are not good against the perimeter this year. Then you got the Cowboys. I mean, lock them in for 40 in that week. And then you got the Rams. Once again, look at the numbers. Not great against perimeter receivers. And the Steelers, not good against perimeter receivers. In fact, the worst defense against perimeter receivers. So every single matchup, Marcus, looks real good for Jameson Williams the rest of the season. I'm in a dynasty league. I just traded for Jameson Williams. I made a deal with our pal, the legendary King, Bob Harris. I traded him TJ Hawkinson. He needed a tight end. I got back Jameson Williams. I needed a wide receiver. We took a chance that both guys who were struggling will turn things around, at least this year and long term. But I really like JMO. And I mean, listen, guys, we're talking about a top 24 wide receiver last year. I mean, his talent just hasn't gone away. It just hasn't worked out in the first half of the season. But when you look at the schedule, my God in heaven, I mean, could it get any better for JMO and for Amon-Ra St. Brown for that matter?
I want to run through some trades that have happened over on Dynasty League Football. And again, these are dynasty trades, so keep that in mind. Jameson Williams for Cam Scatabo.
Whew. I mean, with the injury, I would not do that if Scatabo was 100%. That's clear. But I think it's a fair trade considering the injury situation with Scatabo and not knowing when he's coming back.
Yeah. Jameson Williams for Tyrone Tracy in a 2026 second round pick.
Again, I think it's fair. It's fair. You're not going to get a first round, pick in a deal for Jameson Williams, but a second and a backup type running back. I mean, I don't have any problem with that at all.
All right. How about Jameson Williams for Ricky Pearsall straight up?
Well, see here, the problem is Pearsall is made of paper, man. That guy is glass. He is Glass Joe or Mr. Glass. Remember that from the movies?
Glass Joe from Punch Out. Great game.
Yeah, that's right. I actually did beat Mike Tyson when I was a kid. I remember that. There you go. Yeah, the Nintendo was so hot at the end of it though, because it took me forever. You know how those things just got like really hot, like it was a fire hazard. Anyway,
my profile picture is a picture of Mike Tyson from Punch Out.
It was that in Legend of Zelda too, where I burned out my Nintendo. See, I love Pearsall. I like the youth. I like the talent. Dude is just not durable at all. And he's in a good situation too, because I don't know, Brandon Ayuk, who the heck knows what's going to happen with him and the 49ers. But I get it. It's a fair trade.
One more, and this one is fascinating. Kamani Vidal for Jameson Williams straight up. Again, these are all dynasty trades, so you're trying to look forward a little bit, but as we get further on into the regular season, a lot of these moves are to try to win a championship this year. So just keep that in mind.
I mean, my guess is that the team that traded for Vidal's got Hampton and wanted a handcuff. I don't know. That one's a little weird to me.
I don't know. I don't know. I probably would lean.
Listen, you're speechless with that trade.
I would probably lean Williams just because I believe in the talent more.
Yeah. Kamani Vidal was a third string running back coming into the season.
I know. What about Mark Andrews? He's another guy that you've been targeting.
Yeah.
Do you think he's in prime for a big second half?
Yes, I do. And, he had the 2 touchdowns last week. So you probably missed your chance to buy low on him because he had been crappy for most of the first half of the season. But here's the thing. Number one, you get Lamar back. Lamar and Andrews are, BFFs. They dig each other. Listen to this schedule, okay? First off, he still plays the Bengals twice. The Bengals stink against tight ends. I mean, listen, Colston, why do we like Colston Loveland last week? Because he was playing the Bengals. And Kmet was, not 100%. The Vikings are bad against tight ends. The Steelers are bad against tight ends. The Patriots are bad against tight ends. And the Packers are bad against tight ends. Guess who Andrews faces rest of season? Vikings, Bengals twice, Steelers, Patriots, Packers. Like, it's a really great stretch. And remember last year when Mark Andrews had all those touchdowns and, every week you're starting a guy who's finding the end zone. He's like, the tight end version of Chris Carter. Kids, if you don't know who Chris Carter is, go back and look. He only scored touchdowns. He is going to potentially be that same guy this upcoming second half. And he is a guy that, like, you haven't been able to put in your lineup with a confidence. Throw that out the window. Confidence now. He's going to be in your lineup every single week moving forward, including this week against Minnesota.
So I want to ask you about where you're kind of stacking Mark Andrews right now, because obviously you're taking Bowers, McBride, Warren over him right now.
Yeah.
But for the second half of the year, would you rather have Jake Ferguson or Andrews?
Ferguson.
Okay. Kyle Pitts or Andrews?
Andrews.
Colston Loveland or Andrews?
Andrews.
Dalton Kincaid or Andrews?
Andrews.
Harold Fannin?
Andrews.
TJ Hawkinson?
Oh, by a mile, Andrews.
Okay.
Hawkinson.
So I mean, you're pretty high up there.
The schedule's bananas good. By the way, I was looking at. Do you know? This year, obviously, JJ McCarthy, and this has to do with Hawkinson and JJ and Justin Jefferson. I call him JJ, but now it's confusing because there's two JJs. And then Jordan Addison. He started 3 games this year. Do you know what number of completions is his highest in those 3 games?
Like 12?
14.
Yeah, it's been pretty low.
Gross.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. That's why I don't want Hawkinson. That's why I don't want Jefferson the rest of the season. That's why I don't want Addison. I couldn't trade those damn guys. That scares the hell out of me, man. And if the Ravens defense is playing better like you suggest, and I guess they are on the field. Ugh. Anyways, Hawkinson's not a guy I want. That's why I traded him away.
It's been rough for Hawk this year. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube, download the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. On tomorrow's show, it's going to be another Stardom and Sit 'em Friday. We'll talk about some of the top streamers that you can pick from your bench, or maybe even your waiver wire into your starting lineups. So be on the lookout for that. Follow Fabs on Twitter at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.